Hello everyone, in this video we are going to discuss about web crippling. Next one in the secondary criteria is web crippling. Okay, web crippling. It mainly occurs due to, first let us see the main reason or cause for this web crippling, that is due to heavy concentrated load P, or due to a reaction at the support. Okay, due to the reaction R at the support. Is that okay? So this is the main cause for this web crippling. And this web crippling is also called as, local web buckling. Okay, local web buckling or web crushing. Is that okay? So this web crippling is also called as local web buckling or web crushing. It mainly occurs due to the high bearing action produced at the junction of the web and flange because of this heavy concentrated load and reaction. Of course, I will show the diagram so that you'll understand carefully. Before that, with this palm I try to explain what is web buckling and or how web buckling and web crippling will occur. Is that okay? So web buckling means the total palm is going to bend like this or buckle like this. Okay, this is the deformation in web buckling. Now coming to the web crippling, only the top portion. Okay, see only the top like this. Only the top portion will buckle or deform like this. So if this is the type of buckling observed in the web, then it is known as web crippling or local web buckling. Why? Because it is buckling locally. Now coming to the web buckling, the total web is going to buckle or total web is going to deform in this direction or like this. Is that okay? Now let us see the diagram and technicalities related to this web buckling. Okay. This is an I section whose longitudinal view here we are going to show. Okay, this is an I section. This is a longitudinal view. And here where there is a support. And this beam is placed on the support by using a bearing plate whose width is B, called as a stiff bearing length. And here where the reaction acts are. Now in the span, here where the bearing plate is there, whose width is B. So this width B is also called as a stiff bearing length. And on the top of this bearing plate, heavy concentrated load is going to act. Okay. And if you see the cross-sectional view, and we know that this is the thickness of the flange. Okay, this is the thickness of the flange. And here where curvature is going to present, means at the junction of the flange and web, area of that I section is going to increase, which is known as fillet. That fillet is having some curvature, and for that curvature the radius is known as root radius R. And the same way at the top also. TF. This is the depth of the web. As we know, this is the overall depth. This is the overall depth H. Clear. And this is the thickness of the web TW. Is it clear? So these were the cross-sectional details. Okay, cross-section dimensional details. Cross-section dimensional details of this I section. Clear? Basically, to prevent this web crippling or local web buckling, area at the junction of the fillet and area at the junction of the flange and web is going to increase. That is known as fillet. So because of that because of that fillet or because of increase in area, web buckling, web local buckling or web crippling is not a generalized case. Okay, it will not occur. But even though fillet is provided, due to heavy concentrated load or reaction, web buckle may occur. Okay, web buckle may occur. That to local buckling. As I said, this is how the web buckling is going to take place here. Here I will show. This is how the web buckling is going to take place locally. This is how the web buckling is going to occur. As I said, you take this palm. Okay, you assume my palm as a web. So web local buckling means only at the junction it will occur like this. Web buckling means total. Is that okay now, everyone? So as I said, basically to prevent this web buckling or web crippling, you can say web local buckling or web crippling, area is going to be increased at the junction of the web and flange. That increase in area is known as fillet. Okay, that increase in area is known as fillet. So because of the provision of the fillet, web crippling failure mostly is going to be prevented. Okay, is going to be prevented. But because of heavy concentrated load and reaction, that web crippling may occur. Okay, that web crippling may occur. In that case, this web crippling strength, or you can say web bearing strength, should be greater than or equal to either this heavy concentrated load or reaction. Okay, either this heavy concentrated load or reaction. Now let us see how to calculate web bearing strength. Okay, how to calculate web bearing strength. First of all, how this web buckling will occur, as just now shown in the diagram. There acts a heavy concentrated load or reaction on the flange. Okay, on the flange. In transferring this heavy concentrated load from flange to the web is going to buckle because of high bearing action produced by this heavy concentrated load or reaction. Is that okay? Now let us see how to calculate or how to determine design web bearing strength. Okay, design web bearing strength, or you can say strength of web in web crippling or local web buckling or web crushing. So for any strength, okay, for finding out any strength, we are having one formula. Okay, we have discussed already one format of formula in our beginning class itself. What is that formula? So strength is nothing but force. To get the force, we need to multiply area into design stress. Okay, area into design stress. So here also web buckling strength. Web crippling strength, or it is also called as web bearing strength. Web bearing strength. So web bearing strength we represent with FW. Is nothing but area. Okay, area of the web in bearing AB or AE, whatever it may be, into design stress is Fy by 1.1. So this is the web bearing strength, or you can say strength of the web in web crippling or web local buckling. Clear, everyone? Now coming to this AB is calculated at the location where this web buckling is going to occur. Okay, so from this point, let us consider both the sections. It means both the locations at the support or in the span. At the supports and in the span in this diagram itself. First, for the support, from here web buckling will start. Okay, web crippling or web local buckling will start from here, and it will occur up to here. Okay, it will occur up to here. Therefore, in this case, the load dispersion is assumed as 1 vertical is to 2.5 horizontal. Here I will write once again. 1 vertical is to 2.5 horizontal. What is the meaning of it? If you proceed 1 unit in vertical direction, then in horizontal direction we need to proceed 2.5 times. Is that okay? Now width is to be considered at this location. Okay, width is to be considered at this location. Let us consider this height as h1. So basically this h1 is nothing but thickness of the flange plus root radius. It means up to here. This is h1 here. In cross section, this is h1. Okay, this is h1. Now, for getting this total width B1, so here B1, for getting this total width B1, we need to sum stiff bearing length B plus this is, so here we have proceeded how much? H1. Okay, H1 times 1 unit. Then in horizontal we need to proceed 2.5 units. So H1. So finally this B1 will become B plus 2.5 TF plus R. So this is width of the web. Okay, width of the web in calculation of the web bearing strength at the support. Now at the or under the point load, or you can say in the span, we assume load is going to disperse in both the directions. Is that okay? We assume load is going to disperse in both the directions like this. So this total is known as B1 here. Total is B1. So in this case, B1 is how much? Same, B plus. Here the load is dispersed on both sides of the bearing plate. Therefore, this is 2.5 H1 and this is also 2.5 H1. Is that okay? It means 2 into 2.5 H1. As we know, H1 is nothing but thickness summation of thickness of the flange plus root radius. So finally it becomes B plus 5 into TF plus R. Okay, TF plus R. Now in the calculation of the area, okay, web bearing area AB, we use B1 into TW. If that web crippling, okay, if we are calculating web bearing strength in the web under the point load, then B to be considered this one. Okay, this capital B1 is to be considered. When we are calculating web bearing strength, okay, web bearing strength at the support, we need to use this B1. That means this one, B plus 2.5 TF plus R. Is that okay? That is what bearing area. Okay, that is what the bearing area. Now finally, web bearing strength to prevent web crippling or web local buckling or web crushing. This FW should be, first of all, FW is nothing but B1 into TW into Fy by 1.1, and to prevent web crippling or web local buckling or web crushing, this particular FW or web bearing strength should be greater than or equal to heavy concentrated load if it is in the span, or reaction if you are calculating at the support. So this is the condition to prevent web crippling. Okay, this is a condition to prevent web crippling because of heavy concentrated load or reaction. Is that okay, everyone? So with this, we have completed both web buckling and web crippling, which are basically secondary criteria to be considered in the design of the beams. So as I said, with this, we have completed all the aspects, or you can say all the steps involved in the design of the flexion members or beams. Take it on. As we have completed the discussion of the design strength of the beam in primary and secondary criteria, now let us see, or let us generalize those things what we have discussed in the name of design beam procedure. Okay, design of beams procedure. Okay, so whatever we have discussed so far, now all those things we are going to put in one. Okay, we are going to put in one thing, that is in design of beams procedure. Okay, in that design of beams procedure, now whatever we have discussed so far, all those things we are going to put. Clear? Design of beams procedure. As I said, in this, we are going to put all the things what we have discussed so far. First, let us discuss it for laterally supported beams. As we know, what is meant by laterally supported beams? Laterally supported. For laterally supported. Now we'll go by step. So first step in the design of beams is the loads that may be, acting. The loads that may be acting on the beam are ascertained and multiplied by the appropriate partial load factors. LF means partial load factors. Is that okay? Now whatever the loads that are coming onto the beam are first ascertained, or you can say are first determined, and later those loads are multiplied with appropriate partial load factors. So these load factors and how to calculate the loads we know. Okay, for the calculation of the loads, we are having one code. Or for determining the load onto the any structural element, we're having code that is IS 875. Is that okay? So by making use of that code, we determine the loads coming onto the beam, and by making use of IS 800 code, we multiply that loads with these partial load factors. Is that okay? And there exist some load combinations also. That is what I already discussed. Hence, I'm not going into the details of those load combinations here. So this is the first step. Second step, maximum bending moment. Okay, maximum bending moment and shear force. Shear force are calculated corresponding to loads determined. Okay, corresponding to loads determined. Is that clear? So here where we have calculated the loads in the first step. Now corresponding to those loads, we calculate maximum bending moment and shear force. Is that okay? Next step. Required section modulus. Okay, required section modulus is determined by using calculated maximum bending moment. Okay, so in second step we have calculated the maximum bending moment. So how to calculate maximum bending moment and shear force? For example, let us take simply supported beam with UDL. In that case, what is the maximum bending moment? WL square by 8. And what is the maximum shear force? WL by 2. So by making use of those formulas, or you can say some concepts, we calculate maximum bending moment and shear force. Now by making use of that maximum bending moment, we determine required section modulus. Okay, required section modulus. That is Z required or ZP required is equal to that bending moment M or BM divided by Fy into gamma M naught. Is that okay? So in this way, the section modulus required is going to be determined. Now next step, from steel tables, select a section, select a trial section such that section modulus its section modulus is either greater or equal to required or calculated section modulus. Is equal to required or calculated section modulus. It means after obtaining or after determining the required section modulus with this formula, we'll take steel tables, and in the steel table we'll choose one trial section, or we'll select one trial section such that its section modulus should be greater or equal to the required or calculated section modulus. And in this step itself, we'll classify the section. So further section classification is done. Further section classification is done. Is that clear? So section classification means we're having some classifications of sections like plastic, compact, semi-compact, and slenders. Okay, slender section. So these are the classification of section mainly based on moment carrying capacity and corresponding failures. Okay, corresponding failure types. Okay, theoretically, and in realization of that theoretical behavior, practically we proportion the cross sections. Okay, that is what already discussed in the beginning of these beams. Okay, beginning of this design of these beams. Okay, beginning of the design of the beams. Is that okay? Now this is the first step. Okay, first step. After this, fifth step. check the beam in bending and shear. Next, sixth, check the beam in deflections. Check the beam in web buckling and web crippling. So this is the total design procedure for laterally supported beam. So see here, check the beam in bending and shear. It means already we have discussed how to calculate design flexural strength or design bending strength for a beam. So we have seen so many formulas in low shear case and high shear case, and in laterally supported case how to calculate, and in laterally unsupported case also how to calculate, we have discussed. So by making use of those formulas, we calculate the design bending strength, and that calculated design bending strength should be greater than or equal to this maximum bending moment. And of course there is one check for that design flexural strength. So all those criteria, this beam cross section should meet. And in the same way, the beam is to be checked in shear also. And again, how to calculate the shear and what are the formulas and everything we have discussed. Next, the beam should be checked in deflection. For this deflection also, we have discussed the permissible deflections corresponding to elastic cladding and brittle cladding. Clear? And coming to the web buckling and web crippling. And this also already we have discussed. So we know how to calculate the design web buckling strength and web bearing strength. And that calculated web buckling and web bearing strength should be greater than or equal to heavy concentrated load or reaction. It depends upon the location where we are calculating that web crippling and web buckling. Is that okay? So as discussed previously, this is the procedure for the design of the beams, that too mainly for laterally supported beams. Now for laterally unsupported beams, the same design procedure. Okay, the same design procedure exists with only one difference. What is that difference? The calculation of design flexural strength. It means here where we are going to check the beam in bending. Okay, now when we are checking the laterally unsupported beam in bending, we have to use a different formula. What is that formula? Already we have discussed. So only the difference for laterally supported and unsupported beam is calculation of formula used for calculating the design flexural strength. Rest everything is same. Is that okay? Take it on.